part of our business. So bringing some of that together, what we've done is to organise our thoughts around what I describe as being, well, that's really a very simple picture of an insurance company. And it's an insurance company that puts its customers at the heart of everything it does. It's made a conscious decision about the products that it's going to provide, the markets or the segments of the markets it's going to play in, its distribution channels, how it actually builds the infrastructure and the operations to deliver on that promise. So we've heard today, regulation and the management of capital is hugely important to make sure they can actually deliver on that promise. And lastly, making sure they've got the right governance in place to steer the business and the right people to deliver it. And really, around the edge, what we're showing is that changing world, the changing world that we've already heard a lot about today. We're going to hear more about the environment of low interest rates and what insurers can do to respond to that. So picking up some of the themes that you're going to be developing further and just giving you a little taster of some of our thoughts from what we see around the world that might be of interest to you. So firstly, what should good financial supervision look like? And this, to my mind, is particularly important of study, of focus, because we know within the European Union, we know we've got very significant changes coming up when we finally see the Solvency II directive become real life. And I was very heartened to hear the recognition on the part of the chairman of your supervisory authority that that requires real philosophical changes, really looking into the heart of the business model and thinking about what that means to the consumers that you serve and the products that you provide. So as we've set out there, we've set out some of the trends that we see around the world. I think historically it's been really the picture that supervisors are there, I would say almost as part of the safety mechanism. That insurers think about their products and their offering, and then they make sure that they are delivering those in a way that is compliant with regulations. We're seeing a much more holistic approach to supervision. We're seeing supervisors really wanting to understand what it is that insurers do to deliver on their promises to customers. They're really wanting to understand how it is that you make money and how much money it is that you make. We talk about seeing supervisors intervening earlier, shifting their focus from the point of sale actually to earlier on, to think about the sustainability of your business model. And what does that require? Well, it's very easy to say, oh my word, not another round of regulatory change. It feels as though our industry is always having to deal with change. My view would be, in 2014, that change is a fact of life. It reflects the socially and economically fundamental role that insurers play. It is inevitable that as the world changes, our regulation and the focus of supervisors will be changing. And so what's important is developing that forward-looking mindset. Rather than reluctantly dealing with change, it's anticipating some of those changes and building them into your business model. And what we've tried to do there is to show you a snapshot of what it is we've got in this research. So what we try and do is to set out what it is we see around the world, some thoughts for insights and action, and then our views. Now, moving on very swiftly to give you a taster of one of your other themes, and I think this might be a little bit different. Maybe, hopefully, this gives you some food for thought. So one of the very weighty topics that you're tackling is managing the limits of insurability. And I had dinner with the board of one of the really big insurance brokers around the world, and there aren't very many of those. So you can sort of guess that it's probably one of three. And one of the things that I was most struck was, if I, in running my business, think only about insurance, I think my share of mind space in what we've traditionally thought of as being the insurance market is going to get smaller and smaller, because capital market solutions are becoming increasingly important. And they're becoming increasingly important as we're seeing a wave of funds from pension funds and hedge funds seeking alternative sources of investment, and as the insurance industry is having to deal with some of the challenges of really difficult, complex risks. So one of the issues that is engaging people around the world is how to deal with cyber risk. And what is the role of insurance in cyber risk? Well, that big broker that I was talking to last week is primarily looking at a capital market solution for cyber risk rather than an insurance solution. So to my mind, that absolutely points us in the direction of why your topic is so relevant. Now, the example that we highlight here could not be more different from that challenge of how to provide $1 billion of security to deal with cyber risks. One of the things that we do is we really look around the world, and that's around the world not only in Europe, not only in North America, not only in Australia, but also to a lot of emerging markets. And that case study that we highlight there is a product that's been developed in Kenya. And Kenya is a very diverse country, but it's a country that still has a very significant, still very poor population that is dependent on subsistence farming. And fundamentally, if the rain doesn't fall, there are a lot of people in Kenya who don't eat. And this is a solution that's referred to there in Swahili as kilimo salama, which means safe agriculture. And what that means is that if you go to the market, you buy your sack of seed to grow. At the same time, you take your smartphone and you take a picture of the code that's on that bag of seed. You are paying an insurance premium. You're paying a very small insurance premium. And what happens is that if the rain doesn't fall, automatically you get a reimbursement into your smartphone that lets you go out and buy the seed and replant so that your family can eat. Now, that's a very, very smart solution. It's a very smart solution to a real problem. It's really required some very creative thinking. One of the things they had to do was to set up weather stations so that the rainfall around the country is being monitored. But actually, that solution isn't an insurance policy. It's actually provided as an index-linked solution. Now that, to my mind, as I've been having the privilege of going around the world talking to groups of people such as yourselves, to my mind, that is one of the smartest applications that I've come across. And just thinking about the creativity that's gone into that and how it's been used to solve a real customer need, I hope gives you food for thought as you're thinking about what you can do to help build the insurance market for the future, whether that's in the form of conventional insurance or other solutions to provide security to your customers. So, as we said, one of the things that's important is making sure that you're listening to your customers and that you're making the best use of the data that you've got about the needs of your customers. And we've talked a little bit about regulatory change, and I talked initially about the changing interest and attitude of supervisors. So in the interest of time, I don't think I'm going to spend too long on that, partly because I know you have an extremely distinguished panel coming up immediately after me. So you can listen to them, and then you can compare it with what I was going to say. And then lastly, on my very speedy tour of the topics you're going to be investigating, well, one of the things that you're looking at is the target model for health in Poland. And you face exactly the same challenges that we face in the UK that very many countries around the world are facing, which is, if we look into the future, the number of us who are productive in the workforce is shrinking compared to the population that we have to support. And that's one of the reasons why, as markets mature, we have, as you well know, this very important focus on healthcare. And our understanding of what we mean by good health evolves and becomes more sophisticated the wealthier we become. So a very live issue.